Okay. Okay. I am here with a few members of the Volume 19, some of our SEO powerhouses. It's kind of been a fun week in SEO, fun slash crazy. Earlier this week, I guess this past weekend, so 3 days ago, a huge set of APIs got leaked from an anonymous source at Google that is allegedly basically Google's ranked algorithm. So it got released this weekend, and it's created tons of conversations on Threads and LinkedIn, and SEO communities all over the world are pontificating on it. We certainly gotten some questions from clients on it, so we just want to take a few minutes to talk about what the heck is going on, what got leaked, why this is important, why the SEO community is going nuts, what you should do with it. So my name is Natalie Henley. I am the owner of Volume 9. With me is Tess Taylor and Richard Lesher. And all of us have just been talking a little bit about this. We've looked at some different articles. Richard's actually looked at some of the code. Godspeed. So I'll open it up to you guys. Just kind of a quick initial question, just to start things off. What could you guys just give a quick summary of what is going on?
Sure, I'll jump in. So I would say the biggest piece is that it is a lot of data that's been discovered that outlines what Google is looking at. Whether or not we put a ton of faith into it. Those who have looked through it and gone to sources have confirmed its validity, but really it is a list of thousands of APIs that outline specifically what Google is looking at when determining rankings for different websites across the web.
Awesome. And I am just, kind of for our clients, when we think about like a list of ranking factors, about how many ranking factors would you say was in the documentation?
Well, I think Michael King does a good job of breaking out that there are roughly, I think there's 15,000, 14,000
14,000
different
attributes.
APIs. But how you categorize those is potentially how we got to the hundreds of ranking factors, because a lot of them are going to be related, but there's over 14,000 different API scripts.
Perfect. And at a high level, could you guys give a quick assessment of like, I guess let's start with, why is this creating so much chatter this week in the SEO communities? Because it's blowing up on LinkedIn, it's all over the place. Like, why did this create so much conversation?
I think the word leak will always be that. That's a great keyword to have to get a lot of traffic. It's not necessarily as highly specific and such a bomb drop as maybe some people are thinking. Like this information doesn't actually tell us anything about the exact weighting of these different features that we're learning more details about. It might settle like a few technical SEO debates as far as, oh, Google led us to believe that they're not demoting content for, product review quality or something like that. And now we're seeing that they are. But nothing, at least the way that we handle our SEO content at Volume 9, certainly nothing absolutely earth-shaking. I think places that are already building really solid, high-quality content that is useful to users. That's always been Google's goal with most of their algorithm updates, is to think more like a Google search user and to promote and reward content that is doing a good job of that.
Awesome. So then that kind of leads me to my next question, because thank you, Tess. It kind of just, Richard and Tess, from your perspective, like I think sometimes something will happen in the industry and it pulls our focus, right? Like, oh my gosh, we got to stop what we're doing. We got to change some SEO procedure. We got to add this to our audit, or, we got to do something. How many things, based on this like giant list of factors that have been, how many things do you think we're going to need to change from our approach to SEO as an agency? Like, how big of a deal is this in terms of like, oh, we got to create new takeaways or new things for clients to look at? Like, how like actionable is this, would you say, from your perspectives?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is that it doesn't inherently change what we do, as much as it confirms what we have been doing or how we have been thinking about organic search. A lot of the things that have been found here initially really confirm things that I think generally in the industry we knew, but never got confirmation. And I think that goes to why this is such a big thing, and it is being uh, talked about like a very big thing. In that, with SEO, a lot of it is testing, trial and error, and over the years, see what works, see what doesn't work, and make your own assessment. And I think this is really the first definitive confirmation, if anything, that a lot of the things that we have thought worked are indeed part of the consideration for search.
Awesome. Do you mind taking a minute and just rattling through what some of those things are?
Sure do. There are some highly contested ones that I think across the industry people have had different feelings about. And again, part of that is what Google has said, or how Google has said it. There is a semantic component to this of when asking Google to share bits of the recipe or the secrets. They're not always super open with that information, and probably fairly so, because the second you give SEO something to exploit, they'll probably jump at it. But some of the things that stuck out were, are subdomains treated the same as the primary domains, or subfolders, or really how Google assesses those, and confirming that a subdomain is treated differently than the main domain from an organic search perspective. Or some other common items are links, and how Google is essentially in a post-Penguin world viewing links, and the value, and whether or not the number of clicks a link gets to point back to the site actually matters from a search perspective. So there's quite a few that I think over the years have been contested. Some probably more settled at this stage than others, but again, that confirmation of yes, that indeed is a consideration for organic ranking is, I think, where this carries the most weight.
Awesome. All right. And then as we round out this video, any parting information if someone's trying to learn a little bit more, trying to understand this at a deeper level, things for them to be thinking about, advice, anything like that?
I'll say the biggest thing that, from an industry perspective, the idea of being more critical of the information that we do receive as it pertains to what's a ranking factor, what's not a ranking factor, what's a consideration, what's not a consideration. I'll use a specific example where, um, John Mueller was once asked, are H1s a ranking factor? And that question alone allows for, I won't say dishonesty, but it allows for Google to say, no, it's not a ranking factor, because inherently in our minds, we don't think of it as a ranking factor. Does it still matter from a search perspective? Does it impact your visibility? Of course it does. So it's still something that you want to consider and think about, and just being more critical. And Michael King does a good job of outlining this in his article, along with Rand's article. But really that idea of that semantic conversation, and not just taking things at face value. Because again, I think a lot of these questions, even after they've been shot down, is not a thing. And Rand is probably the most famous case of this, of writing an article drawing a correlation between click-through rates in search and the activity of a user within search impacting actual search results, and he was quickly shut down, by the industry and by Google, representatives of Google, and we come to find out he was right. And I think Michael King makes the point, we all owe Rand an apology, and that's probably not untrue. But those findings have happened over the course of years, and even when Google has said no, that's not precisely that, or that's not actually a thing, there's a semantic piece to this where there's a certain amount of importance that we don't know everything, because if we did, then it's the Wild West as it relates to search engines. So it's important that not everyone know everything about how search engines work. And to that point, this leak doesn't give us everything. It gives us a lot of pieces so far that reinforce prior beliefs, uh, and certainly more to come as more of this is gone through and analyzed.
Awesome. Tess, any big overarching thoughts from you?
I would just say, we've all had clients who every single piece of new news from Google, they want an update, right? And they feel like they're missing out if we're not constantly changing our strategy. But really, at the end of the day, our strategy is working. Like Richard was saying, we've tested things out. We've learned what works and what doesn't work. And so having a little bit of a peek behind the curtain doesn't actually change the outcome, which is that we have learned what kind of quality content tends to produce great SEO results, and that's not going to change as a result of this. So it might give us a little bit of a peek into the inner workings of why this works and this doesn't work, but it doesn't fundamentally change anything that at least our SEO agency is doing. There's certainly other SEO agencies that are trying harder to, I would say, game the system, but that is kind of a never-ending rat race where if you find something about how the algorithm works and they try to cut some corners to get around that, that's becoming harder and harder with every Google update. But it's also very short-term gains and then long-term losses, in my opinion, at least. So really the takeaway is to just keep creating high quality, well-researched content that is useful to users and that is answering the questions that people are asking. It really, at the end of the day, it still comes down to that. That hasn't changed.
Love it. And I agree. I mean, as I was looking through all of this, I think I just took a big, deep sigh of relief. So, I mean, 20 years ago, Volume 9 was the kind of agency that was built based on the mathematical problem of ranking factors. Back when the algorithm was a little more straightforward and it was easier to build systems around what's called 100 ranking factors, that's how we started as an agency. And then all those algorithm updates started happening. We saw the writing on the wall and we went, let's focus on helping build strong brands. And we really refocused our agency more than a decade ago on that. Content development, great pages. It's like, even now, like we look at this and they go, oh, on-page engagement might be a ranking factor. Great. Whether it was a ranking factor or not, it's a good thing to focus on, because why the hell would you want to drive traffic and then not have that traffic do something meaningful on your site? Why would you want to drive the wrong traffic to the site in the first place? So whether it was a ranking factor or not, it was a good best practice. You know what I mean? Like building a strong brand and social media signals, whether today, right at this moment, traffic from Instagram to your site is measured at all or not as a ranking factor, that could change. I mean, 15,000 ranking factors, it's practically impossible to stay on top of that and try to figure out how to game or stay ahead of that. What's a lot more effective, and that was like, I think the biggest thing as I looked at a lot of the summaries, especially that Rand made, was that really holistically, when you look at this, if you build a strong brand, it takes care of a lot of this. And that's really what Google is trying to think about is, are people talking about your brand? Is your website well used? Are you delivering great information? And so like as an agency, that's what we focus on. And so it makes an issue like this, it makes it interesting, it makes it fun to pontificate on, but it kind of makes it a non-event. Because whether or not like engagement was a ranking factor or not, we've been helping our clients figure out how to get better conversion rates. This is important. Whether or not having a strong brand was important from an SEO perspective, it sure was important from a digital perspective. So I think focusing on having our agency focus on that makes me breathe like a really big sigh of relief that we don't have to go line by line through 15,000 APIs to figure out if we've got to tweak something in our audit. And I think just in general, focusing on quality, focusing on the user, focusing on the brand, and not stressing too much about whether this little thing is going to give you some SEO juice or whether this link is better than that link. Like not over stressing that much about that stuff. Just make the right choices, and you'll kind of see the SEO results follow. And that's what this algorithm is really designed to do. All right. Tess and Richard, thank you guys so much for joining, for watching this all the way to the end. We'll try to put as many resources in. We'll certainly we'll link Michael King's article. We'll link Rand's article. We'll link the API We'll also kind of write this up on a blog for V9, so we'll get that all linked in the description here. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to us. Otherwise, thank you guys. I appreciate you.